So that's it for the announcements. Today's discourse is a continuation of our series on the next step. The first discourse I gave on the next step was more about where humanity is going, where the earth is going on a more universal and global level. So I was talking a lot about macro ideas. Today I want to bring it down to the micro, and what I mean by that is to talk about the next steps for individual humans. And in particular, I wanted to focus on our ability as individual humans to manifest whatever we want. For those of you who attend the Spirit of Lotus regularly, you know that we frequently talk about the fact that every single one of us is a co-creator with God. It is our divine heritage, in fact, to create. It is part of our DNA. It is part of what we are as human beings. A lot of people create subconsciously, so they don't know that they're creating the reality that they live in. But we are transitioning more and more humans towards conscious creation of the reality around us. So being consciously aware of our thoughts, consciously aware of our words, consciously aware of our deeds, and how this impacts our environment. For as Shakespeare said, we really are the directors of our own play. Now, it's one thing to say that all of us can manifest whatever we want. But how many of us really believe that we are capable of doing that? Without question and without doubt. I would suggest that the number of people in this world that truly believe that they can manifest anything is very, very small. But this again does not mean we are not capable of doing it. And there is a process of manifestation. And I want to talk about that process today. And this process of manifestation is not exclusive to the Spirit of Lotus. In fact, you can find the same process in many different mystical texts. You can find it in Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. You can find it in the Little Red Book. So this process is already out there. We just have to make ourselves fully aware of the process and put the process into effect. The first step to manifest whatever you want in your life is to know exactly what you want. Now let me differentiate knowing what you want with half-hearted desires or wishes or hopes, because there is a big difference. All of us know people who say things like, I wish I had that car. Wouldn't it be nice if I had that house? Wouldn't my life be so much better if I had this much more money and I was able to pay off my debts and do anything that I wanted in my life? For most people who say those things, their wishes are half-hearted desires because they don't really believe that they're going to get the car, that they're going to get the house, that they're going to get the money that they want to pay off their bills and make themselves free financially. So in essence, those are wishes, half-hearted desires, and hopes. Those things do not come true. So you have to, each one of us as individuals, must determine exactly what we want. Nobody else can determine what you want for you. You must do it. Only you know. Now, once you determine what you want, once you take that step, you have to write it down. And you have to write it down with specificity. Let me give you an analogy. Let's say you want to drill a hole in a rock using water. And I've used this analogy before for other subjects. You can take a pail of water and pour it on the rock. But what is that going to give you? That's going to give you nothing more than a wet rock. It's not going to drill a hole in the rock. Instead, you can take the water and pour it by dripping one drip after another on a particular location of the rock, and over time, that will drill a hole in the rock. This is focused concentration creating manifestation. So when you are determining what you want in your life, you have to be extremely specific. And then you must write it down. That's the next step. Know what you want, number one. Number two, you have to write it down. And when you write it down, you have to include all of the nuances, all of the minutiae. So let's give an example. Let's say you want a car. It's not enough to write down on a piece of paper that you want a car. You have to be more specific. What is the manufacturer of the car that you want? Do you want a Ford, a Mercedes, a BMW, a Hyundai, a Mazda? You have to write that down. You have to write down the model of the car that you want. Do you want a 2-door, a 4-door, an SUV, a station wagon, a coupe? Write it down. You have to write down the kind of hubcaps you want, the kind of tires you want, the interior that you want. Do you want a leather interior or do you want a cloth interior? The kind of engine you want, the color of the car you want. Write down in as much detail as possible exactly what you want on that piece of paper. Now, as you do this, remember not to limit what you want, which is a bad habit for a lot of people. Keeping with the car example, I'll tell you what I mean. So let's say you want a BMW M3, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's the M series of BMW is the top of the line BMW. And they make M series with different types of cars. So you can have an M2 series, an M3 series, M4 series, and so on. You can have an M SUV. So let's say you want a BMW M3, which is going to be a 4-door sedan, M series of it. But you think to yourself, gosh, an M series 3 is very expensive, hard to get. I really don't think I'm going to be able to, so I think I'll get a lower level BMW, maybe a BMW 230. So what you're doing is limiting unnecessarily what you want. And if you limit what you want, if you put those types of conditions on it so that you are in fact not writing down what you really want, this is not going to manifest for you. And in fact, by doing that, you are directly contravening divine all possibility, which exists in each and every one of us. So again, do not limit. Whatever you want is what you want. Write it down, describe it with particularity. The next step, and we've shared this in other classes here at the Spiritual Lotus, is to read it every single day, what you've written down, as many times as you can, but at a minimum in the morning when you get up, in the afternoon, and before you go to bed. We've taught that you need to do this at the Spiritual Lotus. You'll see this in Napoleon Hill's book. You'll see it in the Little Red Book. You'll see it in all of the other mystical teachings which talk about how to manifest. By reading it frequently, at least when you get up in the middle of the day and when you go to bed, you are making it real to your mind. You are making yourself like a magnet so that you are drawing whatever you want to you. Now, some people might say, well, as I go along day after day, what happens if I decide that I want little variations in the item or thing or object that I want? There's nothing wrong with that. Make those variations in your writing. Essentially, what you are doing is fine-tuning your manifestation so that you can manifest exactly what you want. For a lot of people, after they've decided what they want, after they've written it down, they're reading it all the time, doubts are going to be coming up. Doubts in their mind about whether this is really going to happen, doubts in their heart. This is common, probably should be expected. And here's what you need to do. If these doubts come up, do not attach to them. If you attach to the doubts, if you pay attention to the doubts, you are going to manifest that as opposed to what you really want. So if you doubt that you're going to get it, you're fearful it's not going to happen, you don't believe it's going to happen, and that's where you're directing your energy, that's what you're paying attention to, well, guess what? That's what you're going to manifest. You're not going to get what you want. So if the doubts come up, don't attach to them. Redirect your mind and think positively with belief that whatever you want is going to manifest. And you go back to your writing and you read it. And invest emotionally in the item that you want. Using your emotions to draw what you want to you. So experience as you go through the day the joy, using the car example, the joy of getting your car. The pleasure of driving the car around. The happiness that it will instill in you. And using those emotions to help draw whatever you want to you. Again, as a magnet. You're using your mind, you're using your emotions, you're using your very being to make this happen. I told you a short while ago that you shouldn't limit your manifestation. Again, whatever you want is what you want. After after you have determined what you want and you've written it down and you're reading it every day and you're investing your mind and your emotions and your soul in it, let it go and let God. Emmett Fox, a spiritual teacher, talks about this. You should not be telling God how to manifest in your life what you want. And in fact, if you do that, you're limiting God. There are an infinite number of possibilities. Let's go back to the car example. You want the car. There are an infinite number of ways that you could get that car. And if you start directing God how to do it, telling God how to bring it to you, you are limiting the all possibility, all the different ways of manifesting that car in your life. Let God do what he or she is going to do. Let he or she, in whatever means they feel is appropriate, to bring that item into your life. There's one other thing that I wanted to share about this, this manifestation. You must keep it in, well, Emmett Fox talks about keeping it in the power of one. People like Napoleon Hill, they talk about creating a mastermind group. The principle here is this. Here's what Emmett Fox says. What is the surest way to make whatever you want not happen? And it's to tell somebody about it. So let's say you want to start a business in the future, whatever that business is. The surest way for that not to happen is to start telling everybody that you're going to create this business. They're going to inject their own fears, their own doubts, their own ideas about whether it's going to happen or not, and reflecting that back upon you, basically making it, if not impossible, much harder for that manifestation to come true. So by keeping it in the law of one with God, that's not going to happen. God is not going to doubt you. God is not going to instill fear in you. God is not going to tell you it's not going to happen, it's going to be a failure. That's keeping it in the law of one. Or the Napoleon Hill approach and other people's approaches is you can create a mastermind group, a small number of individuals who will support you in every way for whatever you want to come to fruition. These are people you have to trust in every respect, people that will not put their fears on you, people that will not poo-poo your ideas or poo-poo what you want. So as we are progressing as humans, more and more humans are accepting that they are co-creators, accepting that they can manifest anything in their lives, and they will be taking the steps through this process that I have shared to manifest it. There is one word of caution that I want to leave, and I'm not sure this is talked about much in the different books you can read about in terms of how to manifest. This is the word of caution. Choose wisely what you want. Remember that things that come into your life don't just affect you. They affect everyone around you and everything around you. So for instance, let's say you want $50 million and you write it down and you detail all the minutiae associated with you getting that $50 million. and you get the $50 million. You have to be aware that whatever you want, when you get it, there are things that come with that. Things that come with you getting $50 million might be people starting to contact you to give them money because they now know that you are a multimillionaire. Family, friends, people you've never heard of, charitable agencies, everyone contacting you for your money. People putting their own negativity on you. Oh, that person got 50 million bucks. I can't believe they got it. They don't deserve to have it. Those types of things. The point I'm trying to make is when you choose what you want, be aware that you get everything which comes with that. And another thing to keep in mind, which may not be discussed much in these books about manifestation principles, objects and things and situations don't create happiness. There's nothing wrong with wanting things. There's nothing wrong with wanting a car. There's nothing wrong with wanting a house. There's nothing wrong with wanting to go on vacation. There's nothing wrong with wanting a ton of money. But beware that if you are tying in happiness to those things, you may very well be disillusioned when you get them. Objects and things don't equal happiness. In fact, the Buddhists talk about a lot of sufferings caused in this world because people think, oh, once I get that, then I'll be happy. You know, once I have 50 million bucks, then I'm going to be happy. Once I get that car, then I'll be happy. Once I get that house, oh yeah, then I'll be happy. They've redirected happiness to a future event and tied it to an object or a thing or a person. And they are basically setting themselves up for suffering. The point really is to be happy now, right? With whatever is going on in your life, being happy now, not 5 minutes from now, not 2 weeks from now, not 5 months from now, now. And happiness comes from within. All of the great mystical traditions tell us that. You must go within to be happy. So I don't want to leave my discussion today with a Debbie Downer. That these are just things to keep in mind as you're manifesting. Whatever you want in your life, just keep in mind the consequences that come with it and the fact that whatever you're getting may not necessarily make you happy. And then follow all of the steps that I talked about. Decide what you want, be specific, write it down, invest your heart, soul, and emotions in it, read it every day, at least 3 times a day, don't limit it, don't limit God, and keep it in the law of one. And then all of us can fulfill our destiny to manifest and co-create in our environment. So that's what I wanted to share today, and we have time for a deep level meditation.